Thank you. Okay, so I want to start off giving thanks to Paul Waite, who's over here, who helped me turn my vision into these slides. And as Nate mentioned, we make a living as structural engineers, and what I want to try to show here is that as structural engineers, what we do is look at the physics of the built environment, what we humans build on this earth. And how everybody thinks concrete and brick and all this, they're just devoid of energy and still, but they're not. They're vibrating with energy. And what I want to try to show is that every structure is vibrating with energy, with its own personality and frequency content. Likewise, every earthquake is an energy flow coming through the ground, and with its own personality and how they interact in a dance of energy. And then I want to try to make the analogy that as a stringed instrument, when you pluck the string and it vibrates, the earthquake is like the musician and the building is like the musical instrument. So that's what I'm going to try to show. Here's an example of gravity interacting with water and flowing, and it might flow slower, it might flow faster. And here's a bow, and we pull it back, and it stores energy in it. And then that energy is transferred to the arrow. So this flow of energy. And wave energy. So here is imparting energy to the string and vibrating. This is the same way structures vibrate. And look at these different waves, and these exist in buildings. So a concrete structure we all think is rigid and still and devoid of energy. No, it's vibrating like this at all times, and it has its own personality, and it has its own energy flow. And look at the energy flow of this structure. So as the cars flow through it, and look how it interacts with the energy, and as the cars are gone, it's vibrating with energy, and it kind of comes back to a still point, but it's never still. It's always vibrating with energy, always. Like the strings on this guitar, each one has its own personality, has its own frequency, and it's got its own personality, so to speak. And part of the reason I led to this discussion is because my first career was in psychology, and then I switched to engineering, and everybody was like, "It's so different. What do you mean?" And I'm like, no, now I'm a psychologist of structures. So what I'm trying to do here is give a glimpse into my view of this. And the red line is the tall structure, and the blue line is the short one. They're each vibrating with their own energy and frequency content, and they have their own personality. So this one's vibrating slower, and going into the personality of the structure is, its mass and its height and what type of material, what geometric configuration we have of these materials. And these structures, we all know, they're always vibrating like this. So it's moving like this, and it's moving like that. And all these little vibrations and movements are occurring at the same time, and they all add together to create the personality of this structure, if you will. And this bridge here that we all think is rigid and stiff and devoid of energy, it's vibrating like this constantly. And it's vibrating like this constantly. And all these little energy flows and vibrations add together and form the personality of that. This is just an interesting example of a structure sways 6 feet here in the wind. This is the tallest building in the world, and it's not solid, and it is vibrating. And there's a webcam you can look at where they put this tune mass damper in the top, and it's just a big mass where they've affected the personality of that building. And this is trying to counteract that sway in the wind. And basically, they've sort of genetically engineered, if you will, the personality of this building by affecting its mass and such. Likewise, each earthquake has its own personality. And here are the waves of energy flowing through the earth. And every earthquake has its own unique signature. And here are some examples. So we see the Loma Prieta, the North Ridge, and all these earthquakes we've heard of. Here's their acceleration over time. They each have their own personality and their own unique signatures, and this is a flow of energy as everything is in the universe. So this flow of energy, here's an example of now how they interact and they dance together. The energy from the earthquake coming up, the energy inherent in the structure, mass is energy. This is the same earthquake, but two different structures, and look how they behave differently as they interact with the energy of the earthquake coming up, and they each dance differently. And then this is the analogy of the earthquake is the musician, and the building is the musical instrument, if that makes sense. So my point is, everything is energy around us. Even these things we think are devoid of energy, no, they're teeming and vibrating with energy at all times. Thank you.